So guys, the Fujifilm X-T4 is dropped. I know I pre-ordered mine, but I'm still going to the Fuji rumor site because there's a lot of good information over there. One of the things that they've mentioned with the whole X-T4 thing is some of the influencers, YouTube people, have been in contact with these pre-release Fujifilm X-T4s and has talked about the XH series. Will there be an XH2? And some of my previous videos, I really thought the XH series would be dead, but they're saying that that topic has came up in communication with the Fuji people, and they're still planning on coming out with a XH2. I'm assuming it's going to be. So I just wanted to let you guys know I really thought that camera was going to be dead with the, especially with the X-T4, but not so much. It looks like Fuji still got that in the works, but they have a posting over here about 24 things you missed about the Fujifilm X-T4. I thought we'd go through it right here with you guys and see if it's really 24 things that we didn't know about or haven't thought of. Let's look at the first one. It says the X-T4 a much better rolling shutter than the X-T3. Probably because of IBIS, quoted by Cinema 5D. I guess this means that it has the same rolling shutter, less visible due to IBIS. And I've heard reports of the X-T3 having a little bit of rolling shutter, but I didn't think it was horrible. So yeah, I don't know how much better it will be. I don't think it's going to be a huge improvement. Just with the sensor technology, I mean, IBIS might help a little bit, but I don't see it improving noticeable amounts. And I'm not a big video guy, so other people probably could have a better insight on that. But yeah, IBIS, if that sensor is moving a little bit, technically it could help because your movements are a little bit buffered. But again, I don't know. Second one, there are three IBIS modes: IBIS only, IBIS plus optical image stabilization, and IS boost mode that mimics a tripod. I did hear that there was a tripod mode, and it says hence very steady shot. Don't use this last option when panning. I don't know if that's right grammar, if I'm reading it wrong, but I have seen some videos. I think I've watched all the videos on YouTube, and one of the things that excites me about this camera is the ability to pan. I seen some people walking. It did have a little bit of jello effect. They said it was from the digital IS, but I'm not so sure on that. It reminded me of the XH series when people walked around with that. It just was a little bit weird. It looked like almost like a focusing in the background, and maybe part of it was focusing, but it looked a little bit not pleasing on the eye. So I really don't know as far as IBIS only, IBIS plus iOS or OIS. You think that those two would just work automatically in tandem, because if you have an additional access on the lens, or if the lens works better in that access, you think it would use it. I'm not sure what IS boost mode is, if that is the digital IS, but I'll have to check that out once I get the camera. This doesn't really give you a whole lot of information, so maybe it's something I know, maybe it's something I don't know. The third one is Joanna Rask writes, and I don't know what magazine or article this is from, that stabilizer is one amazing piece of tech. I cannot get over how I could handhold my 35 f1.4 at 1 second and still get a sharp picture. This falls right in the middle of what people expect. So yeah, I everything I've seen, especially for photography, it really stabilizes it substantially. They're talking about 6.5 stops. And from what I see, it's capable of it. But when we talk about IBIS, guys, just remember is it does not prevent blurry subjects or people in your photograph. So if there's people in there, it's going to look really odd of having everything crystal sharp, clear, and nice and everything, and you got this warp person that warps through the photo with this trailing image. So you have to use it with a grain, or take it with a grain of salt. I like IBIS, but you really have to plan your shots. So anytime I'm using low shutter speeds, either on a tripod or just in an optical stabilized lens, you have to be careful, because for me, I don't drop below 125 if there's any people around in the photo, because it just looks weird. Even if they're not your primary subject, sitting at a table, it looks weird when they're all kind of like distorted and blurry. So it's not a blurry good and bokeh blurry. It's just weird blurry and motion blurriness. So yeah, great reports on IBIS, especially in photography and I'll call it non-motion video, meaning that it's just handheld video or panning video, and that's how I'm planning on using it. So that yeah, it's not really something that I don't know, but maybe other people haven't watched all the YouTube videos like I have. Number four, 4K 60p still has the very slight 1.18 crop, 240 full frame or full HD or 1080. Always 1.29 crop. So yeah, I knew it was going to be cropped a little bit. Also, I know it doesn't say it here, but the reports that I've seen, the 240 FPS slow-mo, it isn't as sharp as the 120, and it also has some artifacting, but you still got 240. So when you need to slow down that shot for something cool, you're going to have 240 and you're going to use 240. But 120, it looks better and it's probably more usable in most situations. And again, unless it's a high motion picture that you're trying to grab or high motion moment that you're trying to grab. It says you can lock the 129 crop in all video modes if you want. I don't know why you would. I guess if you're, I guess the only practical purpose of that is if you're trying to adjust your focal length. So if you have, I don't know what 1.29 is, but say you have a 50 millimeter and you now would essentially have a longer because it's cropped in on the sensor, because in video you're not using that full megapixel read. So yeah, I guess you could use it in a crop mode just to get a little bit more out of your lens if you need it. So I didn't know that. So that's one thing I didn't know yet. I've just been watching these videos, so that's where I'm getting most of my information. Maybe they are as well. So the EVF is the same, but Fujifilm says that they've tweaked the optics in there. So I didn't know that. It looked on spec sheets, it looked the same. So yeah, hopefully when they say they tweaked it a bit, hopefully its tweaking is on the good side, right? Number 6, F-Log also has an F-Log assist function that gives you a film simulation preview. So that's kind of cool. I didn't know that the XT3 didn't. Oh, okay, I guess I'm reading this wrong. So the F-Log, so I think what this is saying is if you're using log is like a washed out look, but you can grade the color later in post. And I think this is what this is saying is that you can actually use a film simulation in your preview and still capture log on your video file. And I did know that. I did read that on one of the on the early reports. It just helps you better compose and look at your overall video, but then you still have the log for grading and post. And yeah, so I knew that, which that's kind of cool. I guess if you're again, more of a video feature or all of a video feature. I don't use log. I don't grade my stuff. I'm not one of these guys that are super into video. Maybe I am. I really think there's a diminishing return. I do home family videos and YouTube, so yeah, the grading or the color isn't perfect, but it's good enough for my purposes. But if you're really into color science and all that, then yeah, it's something you might help you with. Focus check lock option maintains a magnifying focus check view when you start recording, so that it doesn't immediate jump back out to the whole image view. So that's interesting. So I did not know that. So this is where I'm assuming this is for photography, where you can kind of punch in and see if your focus is on, and then as soon as you hit the button, it pops back out into the normal view. So it looks like you can set it and still lock it, and so you keep on checking your focus, so you don't have to keep on hitting the focus check, because I've done that a few times. But what I don't know about this is yeah, so when it locks, I'm sure it just locks on your EVF and viewfinder. What would be really cool is if your screen on the back and I don't think it does this, but it'd be really cool on the screen on the back. How you pull your face away and it defaults because of the sensor. If you had the full picture on your 1.6 million dot screen, and then you put your eye to the eye cup, and if it kept your focus check lock, and you can really see if it's crispy and nice, that would be really cool. But again, I don't think it has it, but it is pretty cool that if you're trying to form a shot and you're a picture and you take it, anytime you go to hit the button, it's going to readjust and you keep resetting it. So I didn't know that, so it may have a practical use. We shall see. I like my idea better, but we'll see how that works out. Number 8. This video might go long. I'm already on 8, so I know people say I ramble on, and most of my videos I ramble on, guys. So maybe it's not something for you. It's more of me kind of talking through things, since nobody else in my household will listen to me talk camera stuff. So number 8. Dual video recording on separate SD cards for backup. Knew that. I think that's pretty cool. I won't use this, but if I shot professional work for video, I would. I think it's great to have a backup, and I know Sony just started doing this recently as well, and I think it's great for the video guys. For me, how I use my SD cards is I typically shoot JPEG, and I use JPEG, and I have my XT2 programmed or set up to JPEGs go to card slot 2, as does the video. Card slot 1 is RAW, so I shoot RAW, but I usually don't use my RAW pictures. So when my workflow is probably untraditional to many out there, but what I do is I take and use my camera slot 2, my SD card slot 2. I import it in my iPad or my computer, and I'll do small tweaks. But if I need the RAW, if I'm going through the pictures and I see a picture that I like, but I maybe got my exposure wrong where I can't recover it out of the JPEG, or recover it to my liking out of JPEG, I'll go go back to my card slot 2, pull my RAW image and work it. But that's very rare. If I was shooting professionally, I probably was doing a lot of edits, I would use RAW just because it gives you more flexibility. But that's my workflow from like an everyday user, a dad, taking pictures of family and just for fun. That's my card slot configuration. Even for video, if I lose my video, I lose my video. But if I was shooting professionally, I would definitely use the dual cards as a clone and have a backup. So let me get back on track here. Number 9, movie silent mode has now been renamed to movie optimized control. Movie optimized control because it takes the exposure settings away from the dedicated dials, meaning that you can maintain separate settings for a movie and still shooting. So, I just learned this as of recently when I was doing these XT4 rumor videos. I had someone comment, I forget the person, that my big pet peeve of my XT2 is I can set my camera the way I want it, meaning manual settings on my camera. But if I'm doing video, those settings might not be good for video, and I keep on having to flip the video mode, go back and change my dials and my settings on my camera. Love the dials, love the physical manual interaction, but it sucks on the XT2 bouncing back between video and stills. But what this person told me is there's this option in the XT3, because I was really wanting a red video button on the XT4, and I still want that red video button in place of that other generic button on top. And maybe I can program it, but supposedly you can set the camera to that. And what they're saying here is this movie silent mode is just renamed, and I think that's good, because I think it really it better depicts what it's doing. Number 10, battery charging. If you use the vertical grip, you can charge all 3 batteries through the USB-C connection on the camera. Down below, you can see charging times. So they have some charging times. It says, Jonas writes, when using the DC adapter via USB-C and charging the batteries in the camera, you will have a high-speed charging mode. I charge a flat battery from 0 Wow, 0 to 100% in 24 minutes. You guys, if you watch my videos, you heard me just rant and rave on how I was really pissed that they didn't include the charger included in the XT4. They don't include it anymore. That still kind of pisses me off, so I'm not letting them off the hook. But wow, 0 to 100 in 24 minutes. Now, I don't know if it's the camera that came, or I'm sorry, the USB connection that comes with the camera, USB-C, or if it's a higher rate of charge by another one. So it says you'll have a high-speed charging mode. That's kind of good to see. I still would rather have an external charger for a couple reasons. One is power delivery. I know I don't really have my aluminum foil hat on right now, but you're having all of that wattage go through your camera circuitry, and there could be failure. I know I'm kind of stretching that a bit. It probably isn't a big deal. But most importantly, I like to charge my battery and have it ready to go so that I can do a hot swap. Because this is all great as far as USB charging. Technically, you can charge it while you're using the camera, I believe. It'll still charge. But I'm not walking around with a charger plugged into the side of my camera as I'm shooting it. So I really want an external battery charger that I can have my batteries going and I can do a hot swap. But I didn't know that it was that fast. That's incredible. 0 to 100% in 24 minutes. Cell phones don't even charge that fast. So I'm a bit skeptical, and I don't even know if that would be even good for your battery. So 24 minutes, because batteries, guys, lithium ion, the technology is still the way it has been for years. There is some new graphite technology. I don't think these camera batteries are using graphite technology because of the cost, and that is like really pretty new technology. And with graphite, with the way it disperses the current, it can do a supercharge. So a typical lithium ion, you can do I forget what it's called, the majority of the charge. There's a name for it. I just can't think of it. And I'm rambling on because I'm doing this video. Bulk charge, I think that's it. And you could do like 0 to like 70 to 75 to 80%, and that takes not a long time to do. And this is even lead acid batteries will do this. But then that last 20% or that last 30% takes almost as long as that 80%. And that's usually referred to as like the float, or there's like actually three phases. There's bulk, and then I think there's another one, and then float charging. But again, graphite batteries, you can go 0 to 100% in a linear curve or a flat curve. Actually, it's not a curve, a flat line straight up as far as battery time and percentage. But these other battery techs, no. So it's just, again, 24 minutes. It seems a bit of aggressive, but maybe it won't hurt your battery. It just seems like it would. I know I'm really rambling on this one. Apologize. I'm just thinking as I'm going through these, because I didn't look through these yet, guys. I figured I'd do it over video and give you my impressions. Number 11, the mount is reinforced to better handle lenses. The source was Adorama. I never knew that there was a problem with the mount. It seemed always pretty beefy to me, and I think there's some big, 200, 300 millimeter f2 lenses that are huge and heavy. Maybe that the rumor that the angry photographer is having around, that's his speculation, which is a rumor, right? That they're going to try to compete in the sports and action realm and come out with some big glass pretty soon. And Fuji announced some big professional fast glass. So maybe that is why they beefed it up. Maybe they got big plans for some real high end sports and action lenses coming out. So where are we at here? Number 12. The menu has updated so that you can check the age of the battery. That's interesting. I don't know. So the age of the battery. What would be really cool is if the battery had some the battery charger, the one you got to pay $70 for, or internal camera circuitry based on the load that's being drawn, what the health of the battery is. Totally possible. They can fit that in this camera. Like the iPhone. If you look at the iPhone, it'll tell you based on your charge and usage what your battery life is. Is it 80%? Is it 60%? That would be really cool. And when they say the age of the battery, is it a timestamp, or is it really what I hope it to be, is a battery life percentage? So I know this one says I didn't know, and I didn't know that, but I'd like to know a little bit more. It'd be interesting to find out if it's a life cycle or if it's just really the age of the battery. It says an image below. Okay, here we go, guys. There are some images here. Let me see if I can spot it by age. Here it is here. New. It doesn't really say a whole lot. I guess I'm still left wanting for more a bit. So age. So it doesn't have a date, right? So 0 is new. I'm guessing it's doing a calculation. So the 0, I don't know if this is depleted. So yeah, there's a good chance it has what I hope, right? So I don't know if this it starts to deplete and over time, and if they're showing a percentage. So yeah, that's an interesting feature. I really like that. I don't know where I'm trying to do here. Okay, back to the list, guys. Back to the list. Where am I at? So yeah, that's great news. I think that's an awesome ad, so that you don't take a camera battery out with you, and it takes a dive quickly, or it's at a 50% rate, and you're thinking you're going to capture 100 photos based on the spec there. So that was number 12. Number 13, new compress raw option that makes files even smaller. It's a lossy option, not lossless compression. So it sounds like you will lose data, but how much data? It says it saves a lot of space, and it'll reduce the file's image size. It says the quality is about the same as uncompressed, but there may rarely be a quality difference in the shadow regions of the image. So this is pretty interesting. I know that Canon has gone with that other file format. What is it? Don't have it in front of me. EIF or something like that. It's the same format that Apple uses for their iPhones, because you can store a lot of data and not a lot of space. So I don't know what this new compressed raw option is going to look like. Is it another version of that? I don't know. So maybe will it take place of compressed raw, or is it really taking the replacement or competing with JPEGs? Because JPEGs are very old. It's standard across many different platforms, but it's a very old, aging picture format. So that has me a little bit interested, especially for someone like me that does not use raw pictures because of the workflow, because of the file space, because of all of those things. It also depends on what this raw compressed, what is it? What do they call it? A loss compressed raw. See, I like the film simulation, so I doubt that they're going to do a hybrid. What would be cool is if they had, instead of using JPEG, and maybe this compressed raw is it, I still want my film simulations, but I want to be able to tweak them and edit them without losing data. So if I shoot an acros, a black and white, and I want to boost the exposures or boost some contrast, I want the data, but I don't want to start from scratch. So it'll be interesting of what this is. I'm assuming, because they say raw doesn't have the film simulations, so I'm still stuck with JPEG. But yeah, it's good to have options, but I don't think I would use it if I'm going to, in my workflow that is, if I'm going to need that raw file, I might also just grab the compressed raw, the lossless compressed that I store on my card slot 1, that is. Number 14, expanded multi-exposure modes that allows you to shoot up to 9 frames. I'm assuming, the way I'm reading this anyway, multiple exposure modes that allow me to shoot up to 9 frames. So I thought we had quite a few now, and if I'm reading this correctly, if I'm doing multiple exposures, say I'm doing a landscape photo, and I'm taking multiple exposures and then I'm combining them in post, like Lightroom or something like that. So I really want a high dynamic range file. I know today, even on the XT2, there's like more than I would need. I don't know if it's like 6 or 9 then. So yeah, the way I have my Fuji XT2 set, it never left me wanting more. I think I can even expand it higher than I have it set today. So yeah, I don't know why this is a big item unless I'm reading it wrong. So number 15, below you'll see a chart on how effective the XT4 IBIS is on various lenses. So so this is the lens lineup for Fuji. And the 10 to 24, I have that lens. I don't use that lens a lot, but it's cool to see it's got 6.5 stops. I don't know what that lens has. Access, 5 axis, six stops. I'm sorry, 6.5 stops. And the XH1 was 5.5 stops. But I just don't know what this lens, the 1024, since it has optical image stabilization, where is the starting point? Is it 3 stops, 4 stops? Fuji usually has pretty good lens stabilization. So is it 6.5 stops more than than what you had before with just the lens stabilization? So I really don't know how helpful this chart is. What I'd like to see, especially with the OIS ones, is to have how many stops lens with lens only, how many stops with the IBIS, and how many stops with lens stabilization or OIS and IBIS working together. That's what would be really helpful. I'm also looking for a recent lens that I purchased, because I did glance on a YouTuber site, and they had a different screenshot. It was a little bit more of a Fuji pamphlet, and it had all of my primes on there. It had the 35 f2, the 16-1.4, the 23 millimeter 1.4, and I don't have the 35 1.4. I keep on going back and forth. That's one where I really like the f2 lens, but the 35 f1.4, I may just pick it up if I find it for a good price. But yeah, a lot of these already have OIS, so I don't know what the real number of stops would really be. But it's pretty cool that they give you this information. I don't know if there's more here. I know the 16 to 55 2.8 is yeah, so the 56-1.2 is 6.5 stops too. That's really good. I have that lens as well. I won't keep on looking at this. So if you go to the site, if you're kind of wondering how much impact you'll have from IBIS, how they rate it, and most of them look like it's very, very good. 6.5 stops. So let's get back to the list. So dedicated HDR mode. This is something that I really, really wanted to see, even before some of these rumors leaked the spec. I was hoping, if you watch my videos, I really hope they came out with an HDR option. It takes 3 shots and creates a RAW file for you. It's expanded dynamic range. That is really cool. That is something that you guys know that I've been wanting. And the reason I want it, I don't like workflows. So I mentioned that the XT2, even, I could take multiple exposures, put it together in post. But for me, I don't like that. But one of the things that has me concerned, because I like to just take I'll give you how I would use this, right? So I'm on vacation. I'm at Niagara Falls. I got this big room, not a big room. We stay at a regular room, but this big window overlooking the falls, and I have a lot of light coming in, right? So I had to get very creative on how I'm going to take this shot. I actually waited for the right moment in time within that day so that I could take this shot, so I could get my son, and I probably should go back, and maybe I will, looking outside of that window onto the falls, because I was playing with a lot of dynamic range, right? So I had the light in the room, the light coming in from the window. With HDR, yeah, I could take, or if I did a multiple exposures and put it together in post, but I don't want to do that. I really want something that I can upload to Google Photos and share with my family. Where this is an option that gives me that. The only thing that I'm concerned is this RAW for you, so it creates a raw file for you to expand dynamic range. Um, I would rather have film simulations. I want a JPEG. Unless this RAW is coming out pretty good. So the other problem I have with the RAW is to be able to edit in some of my video applications, or not video applications. Sorry, I'm rambling. My photo applications. I do have Lightroom. It does take in RAW, so I'll be able to do that. But it's kind of a pain for my workflow if it doesn't do a JPEG, because I'm gonna have to take my other card out, find it, and import that one. Where if it did a JPEG, maybe it does. If it did a JPEG, then it'll be on my card slot 2. It'll be my normal workflow. Hopefully Fuji can sprinkle some of the magic dust and do most of the processing for me like they do all my other JPEGs. So I'm glad to see the HDR mode, but I'm really skeptical now on how the end result will be. So I'm glad to have it. I'm glad to have the raw file, because at least it helps me as far as in post. And I do have a workaround on the road because I have Lightroom on my tablet. So I'm grateful, guys. I'm not so jumping up and down. It's not quite what I was hoping and expecting, like the Canon version where it takes the 3 and you have a JPEG. So the really hardcore guys, they'll probably appreciate the raw file. But me, I kind of like my JPEGs. So number 17, there's a reset option that is independent for photo and video. Also, video and stills menus are independent. So that's really cool. So when it says reset, I think reset to factory. So if you want to reset your options, you can reset photo or video separate versus resetting them all. So that's cool to see. Also, that the videos and still menus are independent. I did know that. And I'm glad to see that. So that's a great feature. It really improves their menu layout and just trying to navigate depending on what you're doing. 18, I'm almost needing a break going through this 2025 list. Number 18, Gordon from Camera Labs. I like his YouTube channel. Confirms that the Fujifilm told him that the XH line will continue and there will be an H2 in the future. I already noted this at the beginning of the video, that we should see one. Might not be in 2020, but we may see one in 2021. And I think I got this information from Gordon or from the rumor site. But that's good to hear for the XH folks out there. But I think a lot of the XH people bought that camera because of IBIS, because Fuji was not giving it to us in the XT series. But yeah, a lot of people like that camera for different reasons, though, and I'm glad to for those folks to see if that they'll get their wish and see another XH body. So good deal there. And I really think that they're going to come out, if they're going to keep that XH series going. Maybe that's where we see these crazy 6K specs and a bunch of these other things, like the Fuji holding back on the high resolution rear screen. Maybe that's why. I don't know. 2021 is a long ways away, so we may see an XT5 by then, depending on what these other camera manufacturers like Sony with the A7 IV that's supposed to come out soon. It's all about competition. Competition is good. I know people get on here and not here in my site, but just in general, I try to be very neutral. I like my Fujifilm systems, but I also am very critical on something that I don't agree with, like the charger and some other things, where other people they will stand behind their product like they own the company or have like major stock holding in the company, and I get it, right? So people they've vested a lot of money, a lot of their time, and they really want to make sure they get validation that their decision was correct. And it's not about decisions. It's all about what works best for you. All of these cameras are great cameras. My X-T2 takes just as good as pictures as the X-T4, so it has nothing to do with taking a good photo. My Canon M50 took a good photo. The reason I sold that Canon M50, because I hate taking pictures with it. It was more about the user interface, and that's why I love Fuji. But come on, guys, we still got to be critical of these guys. Don't give them a free pass. So, number 19, we saw samples of the XT4 is made in China as well as Japan, suggest that it's made in both countries, like some of the XF lenses that are made in China and also the Philippines. I don't know if Fuji's going to do this. If they do, I think it may be a manufacturing limitation with the crazy things that are going on in China right now. I would like to see it made in Japan. I mean, some people say it's the same China versus Japan. It's not. You can have the process, and I say it's not. It's all. It really depends on the manufacturing. When I say it's not, I'm really talking about a generalization. So when you generalize, it's not going to always hold true for every specific product. But in general, again, general, they're the people, the workforce, they're very much into perfection and very much into process. So, made in the USA meant something, right? Because you're paying a high qualified worker a higher labor cost, and you generally, not saying you always get a return on that, but you generally get a higher quality both in assembly, manufacturing, design. All of those things go into when you say design, right? So typically, yeah, these are designed in Japan, but I'm talking about the manufacturing design. If you have a product and you go to a Chinese manufacturer, and I'm not into manufacturing, but I've watched Discovery Channel like a lot of folks out there, but they do it in a couple different ways. They either give them the manufacturing, say design it like this, the manufacturing, I mean the assembly, the process like this, or they give them a product and say, I want you to build this, and how much can you build it for? And then obviously there's the in between, and then the line is somewhere in between, depending on if they have certain specifications, how they want something built or assembled. So in Japan, they just are known for having a very, very high level of self pride, execution, delivery, you name it. So when something's built in Japan, built in the US, it has a higher weight, in my opinion, in quality as a general sense than made in China. Now, China has a bad rap because they, for years, were just throwing out garbage, right? They were cloning the good companies from Japan and US and stealing their designs, and they were coming up with cheap garbage. And that's not the case anymore. With technology, they've had a ton of strides in engineering and manufacturing. Like I play around with welding and metal fabrication. So some of the earlier welders were just junk coming out of from China, but the newer ones they still have a bad rap. But the newer ones, they've cloned, like literally cloned, a lot of the higher end brands and the more reputable brands, and they've been successful at it. And I'll give you another example: the Honda motor. Honda has been revered. The motor anyway has been revered for many years of being the best in the industry, and it was and still is. But these Chinese manufacturing companies have taken that part, like their engines apart, and figured out how they worked with tight tolerances and accuracy, and recreated that. So they've done it to the point where it might not be as good as the Honda, but it's probably 80% as good as the Honda at 25% of the cost, or 20% of the cost. So you have that cost versus reward. And I think the China manufacturing makes sense, but it's still generally not as good as something made in Japan, or some of these other higher brand companies that will manufacture it there for a reason. So again, that's my rant on that one. So number 20. You still cannot oh, before I jump to 20 on the 19 one, I have the Fujifilm X-T2, and it's made in Japan. I don't think it's a better camera than the X-T3 that's made in China. So I will say that, but generally things that are made in Japan are better than items made in China. Not as much as it used to be, but still are. Back to the list here. Samples, China. Okay, 20, number 20. You can still, or you, I lost my thought process. You still cannot navigate the menu. Are you serious? With touch interface? That sucks. I did not know that, and that just sucks. The XT200 with that 2.67 million dots. I seen that video, and they could go through and navigate through the menu using that touch interface, and it blows me away that Fuji does not put that. So shame on you, Fuji. We want that, or I want that 2 point some million touchscreen that goes through the menu. I don't know why they're doing that. It's frustrating. Not enough for me to cancel my order, but still, it's frustrating. I love the touch interface. We're using our iPhones and our mobile phones, and that's how that's how our brains are conditioned in the current year and on how we use things. So that's frustrating and disappointing. 21. The front dial is still clickable. It's no longer on the X Pro 3, for example. The front dial is clickable. I'm trying to think the front dial. Oh, okay. So yeah, I know what they're talking about. So where your right finger would be, where you can adjust if you have your camera set that way, one of the functions as far as exposure and other things. I wouldn't even say it's really clicky. It's not too much clicky, but it's not smooth either. Yeah, I don't know which I'd actually prefer. I've never really thought about it much, but I guess we don't have an option. It's still clickable. I don't know if it's bad or good. So, 22 white balance. Jonas writes white priority and ambience priority options in addition to auto white balance. The new modes have different ways of processing pure white. The white priority mode reproduces a stronger white, while the ambience priority produces a warmer tone. I found the white priority to be really well balanced outside and harsh sunlight, while the ambience priority worked wonders around the dinner table and subdued indoor lighting. That's interesting. It's like, I don't know. To me, if you're gonna play around with white priority and ambience priority, to get the auto setting down, right? So when it's an auto, it should just work better between indoor lighting and outside lighting. What Fuji doesn't do, and maybe it's just me, if you guys think I'm doing something wrong, please let me know. But I find myself often just doing the manual white balance, changing the Kelvin rating, because unless I'm doing something wrong, and I've been using a Fuji XT4 for many years, is they don't have a flash setting. It's like, how do you not have a flash setting? So usually I'm dialing it in, and same thing with white balance. I'm often tweaking the white balance. The auto balance works outside, but yeah, to me, you should keep it simple. Keep the auto white balance, make it work in multiple situations, and have a flash option like pretty much every other manufacturer has. There's my take on that one. I didn't know that, but I don't know if I like it though. I guess it helps some people, but to me, fix the problem. Don't give me two options. Fix it where it works in both situations. 23. Still no autofocus tracking option in video. It's an area, specified area, or face detection. Yeah, that's. I don't know if it's processor limitation or what, but that would be nice to see autofocus tracking option in video. For what I use video for, I don't really track options or track too much. So yeah, it's not a huge thing for me, but it is something that would be nice to have. 24. Lockable and 40% more rigid eye cup. I've never had a problem with the eye cup, or I take that back. I haven't had a problem with the eye cup that wasn't my own issue, meaning that I tried to take it did something with it. I can't remember on my XT2 to clean it, or I thought it came off a certain way and I broke it. I did replace it with the larger one, which is not a huge one. It's just tiny bit larger. I don't know if it's really worth buying it, but since I broke it, I bought the little bit larger one. So, lockable and 40% more rigid eye cup. Now, I don't know how that's going to feel in the face. So, rigid. Is it a harder rubberized material? Is it going to be comfortable? I don't know. It's hard to say if that's a pro or a con. Same thing with the lockable. Lockable's good because I have not had this issue on any of my Fuji cameras, but on my Sony a6300, that thing, man, you needed to glue that sucker in. It would pop out so easy. I don't know how many of those things I lost. I think I really was buying them by bulk and always having spares in my bag. But I've never had that problem in the XT series by Fujifilm. But it's good to have a lock, so that doesn't happen. Number 25, bonus. So this is 24 and 25 is a bonus. Why not just call it 25? But comments. The dual charger is extra, and the little flash is no longer included in the box. Yeah, I kind of not surprised about the flash. I was pissed about the charger. I wish I get charging us for the dual charger, but they should have gave us a small single charger. Even if it's something really stupid where you plug it into the USB-C and it just has a light and it just shuts off, like what ships with the XT2 and I think the XT3. And that's all I want is a really small little external charger. So I may even wait and buy my charger from an aftermarket company if one comes of it. But if none pop up soon, I'll probably just buy the Fuji charger. So yeah, and then the pop-up flash, it's pretty much worthless. I thought it was a cool thing when I had my XT2. I even brought it on vacation with me, and it was a huge mistake. It was a huge mistake for so many reasons. I still kick myself for doing that. Now I really I travel and always have my bag. I have the Flashpoint or Godox, the small version. I forget exactly the name. I can tell you guys. Hold on one second. Pull my bag out, and I always have this in my camera bag. So there's things I leave in my camera bag, and and this always stays in there. This is the Zoom Mini for the Fujifilm, the R2. But Godox also makes this. It's the same flash. It's just rebranded for Adorama, the Flashpoint branding. But this is just an awesome must buy. I don't make any money off this. I don't have any links yet. I am working on trying to create a website and put some links to get a little bit of the kickback. I think those guys with those affiliate links get like 1%. I forget it, but I'm looking into that, and really I'm not going to profit off it. I'm going to use that money to either buy more gear to try to review for you guys, or give some stuff away just to kind of build the channel up. So I'm not trying to get rich. I actually have a job, not like some of these YouTubers, and no matter how much I make at YouTube, I'm not going to make enough to quit my job. I wish I could, but that's not probably ever going to happen. So this YouTube channel is just a fun thing for me to give me something to do and talk to you guys about photography stuff. And but yeah, if you guys want to buy a flash, if you're counting on this little flash thing, and I'd give it to you, but I'm holding mine just in case I ever decide to sell my XT2, which I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to keep it because people like to have the camera as it came in the box and all of the items included, but I don't use it. It's worthless. If you guys want a flash, if you want a small flash, just buy the Zoom Mini. And if you do buy it, look at my video. I think it's still out there. Is use Any-Loop batteries, and the recycle time is just night and day different between the Any-Loops and like a Duracell or whatever. So yeah, you don't need that little flippy flash. It's completely worthless. And pick yourself up the Zoom Mini or the Godox version of the Zoom Mini. So that's it, guys. 25 items, and most of these things I didn't know. So this is cool. I like to see the rumor site still giving us information even after the XT4 has officially been announced. And I did mention this in my other video, guys. I did pre-order, but due to everything going on in China and the manufacturing delays and everything else, we probably won't see this camera to late April, probably longer than that. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see this camera, the XT4, until May-ish. So, but we'll see. Hopefully things get better around the world for reasons outside of me getting a new camera. Believe me, that's my least of my concern of everything going on in the world. But that said, guys, thanks for sticking with me. I'm sure I lost quite a few folks, but I'd love to hear your comments. And if you like this kind of thing and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I usually don't throw that in there, especially after a 40, probably, I don't even know what time it is, 40, 50-minute video of me rambling on. So, but if you like this kind of thing, please take a minute, subscribe, and please leave your comments. I'd love to hear what you guys say, even when you guys post some critical comments and how I can improve. Love to hear it, and just your overall feedback. I love reading them and responding. Thanks again, guys. Take care. Bye.